In November of 1990, Nintendo officially released their newest hardware, the Super Famicom. Included within the launch lineup of games was the highly anticipated fourth installment of the Super Mario series, Super Mario World. After 1988's Super Mario Bros. 3, Mario fans all over the world were dreaming of more Mario. They couldn't wait to get their hands on the newest game in the series. Unfortunately, North Americans weren't as lucky. They'd have to wait almost an entire year for the Super Nintendo to make it to store shelves. In an attempt to fill the wait, Nintendo released various titles Japan never got. These titles were NES Play Action Football and Star Tropics. Meanwhile, developers at Nintendo of America were hard at work with localizing Super Mario World for international audiences. During the development and localization of games, certain aspects are changed to help the game better suit the region and even have extra features for review purposes. This build is certainly no exception. It contains graphical differences, dialogue differences, and even some debugging features. Let's take a look at what this build has to offer. First, let's start off with the graphical differences. Right off the bat, you can see that the title screen may seem a bit odd, especially to those of you who are from the United States and Europe. This is because the main logo here matches with the Japanese version of the game, which had a large shadow behind the colorful lettering. The title screen seen here is essentially the same as the Japanese version, just with the text translated into English. Some of you more astute viewers may notice the absence of the Super Mario Bros. 4 subtitle that is usually associated with this point in the game's development. There were remnants of these graphics left over in the retail US version of the game, but upon taking a look at the prototype build using external tools, no such tiles seem to have been created yet. These tiles are also absent from the retail Japanese version of the game, although the subtitle still appeared on the Japanese box art as well as promotional materials. Leaked files from July 2020's GigaLeak revealed that there were quite a few revisions of the US title screen. The final version that we all know and love, the Super Mario Bros. 4 version seen in various bits of promotional footage, the Japanese-English hybrid title, which is seen in the build we present today, and an interesting version of the Super Mario Bros. 4 logo that was meant for the Nintendo Super System at arcades. From these files, we can make an educated guess that our build predates the subtitled variants and was one of the first prototypes created at the start of the localization process. Moving on from the logo, if you look closely at the file select text, the 1 and 2 player sprites match the Japanese version, which had a slightly different font. Speaking of fonts, the letter graphics used within text boxes and level names are completely different from the final game. The final game uses a much thicker font, a style you tend to see featured in various other games during this era. Past the title screen, there are still many more differences to be seen. Upon entering Yoshi's house, the sign bearing his signature has a stray pixel on the S. The sign's font is also slightly different, and it lacks shading. The last graphical difference that we could notice in-game is for Princess Toadstool at the end cutscene. Her graphics are in a transitional phase between the Japanese version and retail US version. Peach's sprite is the same as the Japanese version. However, when she kisses Mario, it's the same as the American retail version. The prototype also contains quite a few graphical changes only noticeable with hacking tools. As you can see here, there's various leftover Japanese characters. You'll also notice a few X tiles. It's a common practice to X out tiles to indicate they are unused. There's also something else quite interesting of note. At the end of the graphics data is an early font set. This font matches the one from the GigaLeaks with the file name moji-1.cgx.bak, which is located with various The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past assets. An early draft of the game's script can be expected in a localization prototype. Most of the text differences in our build are minute. For example, Yoshi's signature at the start of the game is fully capitalized. This is not true for the retail version. For various message block hints, the Super Famicom controller's button colors are referenced rather than their respective letters. The text explaining how to pick up shells references the blue and green buttons, which were changed to X and Y buttons in the retail game. This is because for international Super Nintendo controllers, the button colors were changed from red, yellow, blue, and green to 2 different shades of purple. To To eliminate any confusion, the localizers later opted on referencing buttons by their corresponding letter. A minor grammatical error can be found in the Switch Palace. After hitting a big switch in the final game, the message ends with, "Your progress will also be saved." In the prototype, "also" is mistakenly moved to the back, making it, "Your progress will be saved also." Unsurprisingly, the credits feature differences too. The Boo Buddies and the Big Boo are referred to as Boo Diddley and Boo Jackson, respectively. Boo Diddley was previously used in Super Mario Bros. 3's manual and was a reference to the American blues singer Ellis Bo Diddley McDaniel. Boo Jackson is a reference to the American baseball and football player Bo Jackson, who, at the time, was playing baseball for the Chicago White Sox. This prototype contains many debug features, which would have made localization much easier for developers. For starters, Mario will not die when the stage timer hits 0, and is free to roam the overworld wherever he chooses. You could feasibly walk to Bowser's castle without beating the first level. Additionally, the code usually used to exit a completed stage, simultaneously pressing both start and select, will now instantly complete the level and unlock the path ahead. If these features weren't powerful enough, pressing the select button on the overworld map will also toggle between different colors of Yoshis. Similarly, while inside a stage, you're able to hold up on the control pad and press select to cycle through various power-ups. Holding L and A while wearing a cape will let you fly instantly and for as long as possible. Pressing it again will let Mario move anywhere around on the screen. Similar debug functions can also be seen in games like Super Mario 64. There's also some codes related to the castle levels. After beating a castle and watching the ending cutscene, you can press L and R to replay the scene. You can press L, R, and up to view the next castle cutscene. Due to this being a localization prototype, there are not a ton of level differences. The ones there are minor, and often holdovers from the Japanese version. For example, the final special level, simply called Funky, ends with a series of coins that spells out "You are Super Player." This was lifted from the Japanese version. The final North American game includes the missing A before Super Player. A little known fact about Super Mario World is that pressing L and R over a completed castle will let you re-enter it. In the prototype, this has not yet been implemented. Pressing L and R over a castle does nothing, much like the Japanese version of the game. Donut Plains 2 contains perhaps the easiest difference to miss. In the final game, there's an extra yellow block at the beginning, containing a super mushroom. In the prototype, that's gone. You're stuck as Mini Mario for most of the level. Staying in Donut Plains, if we go to the secret ghost house, the wall next to this door has not been extended to cover the background. In the retail US version, the wall has been extended to cover the empty section of the screen. Star Road is where things get more interesting. As already mentioned, the player is free to roam the overworld without beating a single level. Going to a Star Road point on the overworld without unlocking the prior stage will lead to something entirely different. For the first star point, it's an exact duplicate of Donut Plains 1. For the second point, it's a vertical test room used for testing out graphic layouts for slopes. For the third point, it's an empty stage where Mario dies instantly. For the fourth and fifth points, it's a literal test room, a room with the word test written out in yellow blocks. Attempting to go to the special world without unlocking the previous level will yet again lead you to this very same room, but the infamous unused No Yoshi's cutscene will play beforehand.
Thank you for tuning into this Forest of Illusion episode. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our other releases or future content. If you have any development kits or prototype cartridges, feel free to reach out to get them preserved. Goodbye!